Recording in progress.
There we go. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Land Use Committee. I'm Andrea Kelly, I'm the chair. With us here in the chamber, we have Councillor Allison Leary from Ward 1, Councillor Tariq Lucas from Ward 2. Thanks for that. I'm from Ward 3, Councillor Randy Block from Ward 4. Let's see. Councillor Downs from Ward 5 is on Zoom. From Ward 6, we have Councillor Ellen Lobovitz. And from Ward 8, we have Councillor Stephen Farrell. With us also, we have our city clerk, Scott Matthews. From planning, Joe Iadonisi, Katie Wewell, and Kat Kemet. And we also, I think, have our law department, Jonah Temple. I will introduce other people, staff or city councilors as they come. Tonight, excuse me, our first item is number 69-25, which is a request to allow 4 attached single-family dwellings at 75 Prescott Street. Is somebody from the petitioner going to be presenting this?
Yes, Madam Chair, Lawrence Lee on behalf of the petitioner.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Go ahead.
So this is, we were here last week, a week ago, and we had a continuance, and there was over one question as it relates to the parking space sizes on the right-hand side of the driveway of the property. And since that time, we have determined that there is sufficient room to elongate those parking spaces. And with your permission, I'd like to share what we've developed and what we have submitted to the city.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. So this is the new updated proposed conditions site plan, and I'll zoom in on the area in question, which is on this side over here. This is the right-hand side. The driveway does already exist, and we are able to shift a piece of the landscaping away and then elongate the parking spaces such that we have 9 by 18. Previously, it was 8 by 16, and the committee felt that it may not be adequate. So this was the only outstanding item left over from the last hearing. And I can go over the rest of the presentation again as a refresher if any committee member deems it necessary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. Planning, do you have anything to add to this?
No, planning is overall supportive of any time a petitioner comes closer into conformance with the zoning ordinance as this does, even though those spots were prior existing non-conforming legally. This brings them closer from previously 8 by 16. Now they are at 8 by 18, which is closer to the 9 by 19 required by the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Iadonisi. As I think I said last week too, that just because something is pre-existing, if it's not safe, it's not something we necessarily want to keep. So I'm very happy to see that the petitioners were able to make this a longer spot. Are there any members of the public who have anything they would like to contribute? I don't see anyone, so we'll take it into the committee. Councillor Leary.
Mr. Lee, I just had a question about, did you have to move the trash and recycling areas did you move? I couldn't quite see on the map.
We did. We shifted one of the bushes that was directly in front of the porch,
Yeah.
and relocated the barrels.
Okay. I'm very glad that you were able to come into greater conformity on that, because I think the committee really needs to be consistent on these issues. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Leary. Anyone else from the committee like to speak? Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. I don't recall from the other conversation whether we had
Any discussion about the permeability of all of this asphalt? Especially if some of it's going to be newly installed?
Mr. Lee?
I don't recall that conversation, but the driveways do currently exist.
But you will be expanding it. Is it just that one section that is going to be new, or you're going to redo the whole thing?
No, it's actually pretty much where it is. I can share my screen and show photographs of the existing driveway. That helps. I'll just share my screen and I'll jump to the slides that I had from last time of the photographs.
Mr. Lee, while you're pulling that up, is the material asphalt?
I don't believe that's asphalt. It looks like to certain parts of it are concrete to me.
Yes.
But yep. So this is the existing driveway. The only change really that we had to do is really just relocate a piece of the landscaping on this side right in front of the porch. But otherwise, we're leaving most of it untouched. This driveway is actually going to be shortened a little bit. The garage will be demolished. And so in some ways, we are removing some pavement.
So you're saying, actually, though, you're not replacing all of the existing driveway, you're removing some of it, so there will be less impervious material on the site?
On the left side of this driveway here, because this is going to be removed and we're going to be cutting this a little bit shorter.
So, thank you. So just quickly, so virtually none of the soon-to-be new driveways are being restored in any way? Just shortened on the left side and
It may need to be touched up. So for some, there's some repairs that need to be made here, but in terms of impervious surfaces, most of it already exists.
thank you.
Sure thing.
Before I move on to, I see two other counselor hands. I'd like to welcome Counselor Julia Maliki, who's joined us on Zoom. Counselor Lobovitz.
So Counselor Farrell asked my question, so it was answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Downs.
Thank you, Chair. I've been out there. It is a concrete driveway. I don't know what the extension will be made of. I'm willing to support this, although I don't like parking in the front setback, in part because I think it's important to preserve the back area as open space and preserve the trees that are there. And there are some big, lovely ones there. But I also want to remind my colleagues that there are families in Newtonville now who have either one car or no car, and they get along fine between walking and biking and public transit. And that we can, that apartment houses that have fewer than the minimum of 2 parking spaces can be sold for a little bit less. That makes them slightly more affordable, as does the family having less than 2 cars, because that's less than 2 sets of excise taxes. And these days, I'm told a regular American-made vehicle runs in excess of $80,000 to buy new. So there's that and maintenance and all the other costs associated with it. So I'll leave it with that. I'm willing to support this.
Thank you, Counselor Downs. Welcome, Counselor Pam Wright, who has joined us also by Zoom. Counselor Lucas.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Lee, for making the adjustments to the moving the landscaping, and you moved the trash. Parking is now 18 feet in length for those 2 stalls on the right side of the house. So I think this is ready to go. So the only thing I'll just say is, because I don't see any of the other neighbors here, but I know your clients are on Zoom tonight, Mike and Mike, and I don't know if they've developed in Newton before, but I just want to remind them that, and I don't know how involved they're going to be in the construction of this site, but just construction begins at 7 a.m. on weekdays, 8 a.m. on Saturdays. So with that, I'll move to close the public hearing and move for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Lucas. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. And we do have a motion to approve this, so let's hear back from planning what the conditions are.
All right. Share the screen. There are a few conditions as this is a 4-unit. So the first one is our standard condition with our site plan referencing with the most up-to-date site plan going to be added in. Since we received the materials after the deadline, we need to revise that date there for the site plan, and we'll make sure that it matches with the most recently presented plans. Architectural plans, including the elevations. And then next is the submission of a stormwater operations and maintenance plan. Third is pest and rodent remediation activity. And fourth is that construction management plan, which in part includes what Councilor Lucas mentioned as far as making sure that crews are working within the correct hours. Or sorry, that's condition number 5. And then number 6 is making sure that this has been recorded, the special permit, final utility engineering and drainage plans, final construction management plan, and then lastly, for that condition is making sure that planning signs off on the plans matching those plans that have been approved. Next is the certificate of occupancy, making sure that that is not issued until the as-built matches what has been constructed on site. We have a statement from a professional land surveyor and registered engineer certifying compliance with the approved plans, as well as approval from city engineering, and then location, number, type of plant materials, landscape features, fencing, and parking areas, having planning approval, and lastly, maintenance of the landscape.
Thank you, Mr. Iadonisi. So I saw that number 5 covered what Councilor Lucas was wanting to be sure was in there, which were the hours of construction and operation. I think unless there are any more comments, we can vote on this.
Counselor Block,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lovovitz,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Rado. Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Lee. The next item we have is number 76-25, which is a request to amend a special permit, which was number 419-22, to allow a 3-story structure at 148 Auburndale Ave. Is there somebody in the chamber or online to speak for the petitioner here? Are you Mr. Rutan? Yes, please come up. Make sure the microphone is on. At the base of the microphone, the black thing in front of you, there's a little switch.
Oh, there we go. Does that work?
Not yet.
Hello?
Yes.
Hey.
Just give us your name and address, and then you can tell us what you're trying to do.
Sure. Chris Rutan, 148 Auburndale Ave. We had a special permit to do a small expansion backwards as well as a little bit to the side. So that was approved. As part of that initial special permit, we had asked and were granted it was part of the original drawings, it was about 170 square foot of space in the attic. But when the building permit went through, we found that we didn't have the structured correctly. We didn't have enough headroom. And we were told we need to have a better headroom as well as a staircase as opposed to a ship's ladder type of a setup. So we wanted to go forward with that and basically allow us to do that. But the structure, I guess the way we're doing it is with a knee wall, which basically now I guess turns it into a 3-story as opposed to a 2.5, which weren't aware, but that's the plan. It's not for the whole third floor. It's just for that one section that we originally were looking at, just to add a little bit of height. And it's, we're not going up much, just less than I think it's about 2 feet or something like that, and still well below the height limit. That's the plan.
Okay, you're saying your architect was unaware that the addition of this knee wall or knee walls was going to turn it into technically an additional story that you had not applied for?
Right. We were thinking that was going to happen. Let's put it that way. Yes, correct. So,
Okay, thanks. If there are more questions, you can come back up and answer them. Are there any members of the public who have questions or comments about this project? And planning? Yes. Joe, is this, Joe, Mr. Iadonisi, this is your project again?
Yes, that's correct. I'll move to my presentation here. Okay, so this is petition 7625, and then this is a petition to get relief to amend a special permit for a third story. The location of the property is at the border of, at the corner of Fernwood Road and Auburndale Ave, just to the northeast of Auburndale and to the northwest of West Newton. The zoning relief is just for those two items. And in particular, this is a little bit, not necessarily unique, but whenever a knee wall is constructed that causes the slope of the roof to not intersect with the floorboard below, so that creates a third story. It's 2.5 feet for the knee walls, so that raises the overall height of the dwelling up to 31.5. And even though it is just about 1/3 of the total roof area, that makes the structure as a whole 3 stories, amending their prior special permit. The criteria to consider are just that the specific site is an appropriate location, that the third story as developed and operated will not adversely affect the neighborhood, that there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians created by the third story, that access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved in the third story. Analysis is that it's about 1/3 of the total roof area. It's located to the rear, so it's not immediately visible from Auburndale Street, but it is a little bit visible from Fernwood. You can see it if you go down the street a little bit from the corner with Auburndale there. It is something that hasn't come up a ton, at least in my experience, but knowing that the height regulations are something that is Newton specific here may have contributed to the contractor's error in constructing those knee walls. And then lastly, the guidance that we always get from legal, and I know Jonah is on here if he cares to expand upon, is that whenever the scope of work is exceeded and a special permit comes back for an amendment to kind of get relief after the fact, it should be considered as a new petition. So without further ado, I'll turn it back.
Thank you, Mr. Iadonisi. So you're saying we should consider this whole thing as if it were new, the way we do with amendments? Like, look at the whole thing. Would we have approved this originally when we first considered it?
Correct.
Mr. Temple, did you want to add anything?
Not unless the committee has other questions. I think that was exactly accurate.
Yep, thank you. I'll just ask again if there are any members of the public who would like to speak on this. I don't see any in the chamber. I don't see any hands up. In which case we'll take it into the Land Use Committee members. Any questions or comments from the committee members? Is that a finger? No. Yes, Councillor Block.
Thank you, Chair. I noted in one of our documents that a stop work order was issued on January 30th of this year. Perhaps this is directed to planning. Has this been in this state since then? This question about getting the special permit amended?
Mr. Iadonisi?
Correct. As far as I know, the applicants have abided by the stop work order, and it's been in that current state since then. I don't note anything else in the file on NewGov that says that they've constructed additional work after that stop work order. So I think as soon as the inspector noticed that they were constructing knee walls, this was appropriately flagged for our review and planning and to come back for an amendment.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't so much wondering if the stop work order hadn't been obeyed. I assume it has been. It's more that, did you do a DRT on this at the time, or how would this come to your attention, I guess, after the stop work order was issued?
That's back to you, Mr. Iadonisi.
Yeah, so once inspectional services flag something, either that has an existing special permit or that maybe potentially requires new relief, they know the zoning ordinance as well, and they know to contact us when there's something involving a special permit or something that would require a new special permit. So once that third story was noticed and the stop work order was issued, inspectional services contacted us and notified the applicants or the property owners that they need to go ahead and request a special permit for an amendment of their prior existing special permit and for that third story.
I can jump in as well. So it looks like they did not have a DRT. I think these folks have been through the special permit process before, so they're familiar with it. So I don't think they needed much guidance on the process. And it looks like they filed for zoning review, which is sort of the subsequent step in the special permit process, on February 10th. And then the special permit was filed on March 3rd, and that brings us to the hearing today.
Thank you very much. That's that helps clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Block. Councillor Farrell?
Thank you, Chair. We visited this site and I think the building actually is going to look very nice when it's completed. It is quite a mud pit in back, and I might as well be consistent about this. What are you going to be using for driveway surfaces? Is it possible that they will be permeable surfaces?
I think that question is probably for you, Mr. Rutan. Thank you.
We aren't changing anything with the driveway. We're just keeping it as it is. We're not doing anything in the backyard other than, what we've had before, and gonna be grass mostly, so.
So there will be no parking in back.
No parking in the back. We right now, we have a driveway right now where the garage is, and we're not changing any of that.
Thank you.
All set, Councillor Farrell?
Thank you.
Councillor Lobovitz?
Just wondered if there are any renderings to show what the original permitted plan was and the new construction, especially from, is it Fernwood? The angle which they said was more visible in the back. Is there anything that we can look at?
Mr. Iadonisi, do you have any elevations?
Yeah, I will pull up the elevations. There isn't anything that would show what they look like now, but or as constructed. This would just be as approved. So if you'll give me just a second to have that ready. Okay. Okay, so this is as it's proposed and approved for the last time that they submitted. The front elevation, that this peak of the wall here, that is, you can kind of see where that rear addition is, where they extend it to the rear. That is raised by 2.5 feet. And that's the section over here. I know it's kind of difficult with the cursor. I can use the drawing tool. That'll be easier. So this section is the area in question.
Is that okay for you, Counselor Lebovitz?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Are there any more comments or questions from the Land Use Committee or other counselors? I know Counselor Maliki, you're quite a close neighbor of this property. I didn't know if you wanted to speak, if that was why you were here or not. And if not, we'll just move on with someone to make a motion because this is in my ward.
Sorry, I thought this was in Ward 4. I guess I don't know my boundaries very well. Yes, I move to close the public hearing and move for approval.
Thank you very much. Counselor Lucas, all in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. And we do have a motion to approve. So let's take a look at conditions.
Okay. The conditions are standard conditions with the all work in the future having to match with the approved site plan and architectural plans and no certificate of occupancy being issued until the work is shown to match with the approved plans in condition 1 and an as-built has been submitted. There is notably missing from that is the standard building permit condition, as a building permit has been issued for this project already.
Thank you, Mr. Iadonisi. I think we can vote.
Counselor Block,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lebovitz,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck with your house. Sorry, there's been a delay, but it looks like it's going to be nice when it's done. Our next item is number 77-25, which is a request to exceed FAR at 71 Commonwealth Avenue. Good evening, Mr. Morris.
Good meeting, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Terry Morris. I'm an attorney representing Mr. Brian Connaughton, the owner of the subject property. And we're here this evening to present. So I guess if we could share the screen, Brian has his presentation ready. Okay, right there, good.
Looks good.
Okay, that's it.
Go ahead.
This property was once part of a larger parcel that was approved for development of 6 attached dwellings some 2 years ago, which proved to be financially unfeasible. And therefore, the property was broken up into 3 lots and sold individually. Mr. Connaughton purchased one of those 3 lots at 15 Algonquin Road, for which he received special permit for 3 attached dwellings from this committee and council. The end of last year. This project was originally conceived of as a by right project for a 2-family dwelling. Because of its sharp topography on the site, back of sidewalk 188 rising to a height of 200 feet in the back. Obviously, constructing on a sloped lot like this created a number of challenges. Originally, he had a proposal to avoid, to basically sink much of the mass below first story into the ground. However, then that required a number of retaining walls. So late last year, he changed his position and basically eliminated all the retaining walls, as a result of which we are here because of FAR relief. What you see in front of you is a sheet taken from Jane Santos Russell zoning road, zoning review memo. I think it's important to point out that this property is subject to all of the dimensional controls except for FAR. We meet the lot size requirement, the frontage, the setbacks, front, side, and rear, the height of the building, the number of stories, the lot area per unit, lot coverage, and open space are all satisfied. We're here for an increase in FAR. Allowable FAR is 0.48. And we are at 0.52, which is a difference of 475 square feet. Move on from that. This is a view of the buildings, which we'll show you later in plan form. This is one of the renderings. This is the comparison of, on a site where we do excavation like this, obviously, is a keen interest in what is the average grade that establishes the height of the building. Obviously, everyone's pretty familiar with the fact that the council passed an ordinance effective January 1st, so that all such projects are now measured from their existing average grade. The plan on your left shows the existing average grade. Plan on the right shows the proposed average grade. There's a difference of 1 foot with the average grade plane on proposed being 1 foot lower than the existing average grade. Nonetheless, the existing average grade in this petition was used to measure the height of the building, which came in at 54.45 feet. Next. This is one of the conditions, the prominent conditions at this site is the existence of an existing retaining wall that's got to be over 100 years old, shown here at the back of sidewalk as it runs. It runs from the corner of the intersection of Algonquin and Comm Ave and runs easterly along the back of sidewalk. It provides frontage for actually both 71 Commonwealth Avenue and the subject property. Subject property has not yet been given a street address by the engineering department, but we have every indication that the likely street address will be 55-57 Commonwealth Avenue. So that's the reason why you see it referred sometimes under the number of 71, because it was originally part of 71 and had not been assigned a new number. So for that reason, we were required to come into the 71 address. This shows the proposed plan. We've already gone through the zoning characteristics, so. Here we have the first of the floor plan elevations. This is the actually garage plan. This is the one that shows you the square footage below the area below first grade, first floor, excuse me. There is approximately there are 2-car garages provided parking for each of the units. And one of the attractive features is that the parking is provided totally out of sight and underground. The total area taken up by these figures is, by the 2 garages, I should say, for parking is close to 1,000 square feet. Most of that is now contributing to the 475 square feet that we are over in FAR. And that was largely dictated by trying to achieve an approved site plan where we had the parking below grade and out of sight. This is a floor plan. What you see in the front square or rectangle is one of the units, with the second unit attached at the back, perpendicular to the front. This is the second floor. Second floor. These units are approximately what square footage each? 2,200 square feet. Next slide. That's the third floor. You can see there, that's where the square footage was calculated according to the formula in the ordinance to determine applicable floor area. Here we have profiles of the building. The upper one is basically a colored montage of of the front of the building showing from Commonwealth Avenue. The lower picture is looking from the left side, essentially looking east. That is the west side of the building looking east. Next one. Building from the other side, this is the rear of the building on the top and the right side on the lower level. We've shown you this shot because this actually shows the integration of the three properties that I meant that comprised the original development, which had been approved for 6 units. The building on the far right is essentially a rendering of the 3 attached dwellings that were most recently permitted. The big white block in the back between the 2 buildings shows the historic Spanish style house that sits at 71 Commonwealth Avenue. And then to the left is the edge or back edge of actually the second unit of the subject petition. This is a landscape plan. The only thing significant about this landscape plan is 2 weeks ago, my client actually invited all the abutters and abutters to a virtual meeting to share the plans. And I'm told that the only comment was to remind him to basically use native plants, which he has done. Oh, wait, music. Where was it? This is a video showing the relationship of the buildings. 71 Commonwealth, that is our building at 55, 57 Ave. The building to the left you see is the existing historic building. This is an aerial view with our building in the forefront. It gives you a sense as to how the buildings sit on the topography. I'm sorry, Counselor, what was the comment? And there we're back again to a view of the property that's basically from the front side. First page. That concludes our presentation, Madam Chair. We're of course available for any questions people might have.
Thank you. I'm sure there will be some. Before we get to that, let's hear from planning. Ms. Kemet.
Kat, do you need me to share or yes? No? I just sent you a request to unmute, Kat. I don't know if you are. Is that what you're having trouble with? Okay.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. Hello, my name is Kat Kemet. I'm a planner in the city's planning department. This is petition 7725 per 71 Commonwealth Avenue. This is a special permit request to exceed the allowed floor area ratio. As Attorney Morris discussed, this is a property that was previously combined into a larger parcel with a different special permit, which has not been exercised and is now inactive. The property is a 10,009 square foot lot in the multi-residence 1 zoning district. It's a vacant parcel where the pool was previously located that was associated with the historic building at 71 Com Ave. It's in Chestnut Hill in a predominantly residential area with a mix of single and multifamily uses. There's also some private educational uses nearby on property owned by Boston College. The site is sloped with a high point at the rear and several existing retaining walls at the rear and along the frontage on Com Ave. The petitioner is proposing to construct a new 2-family dwelling on the parcel. The project will conform to most of the relevant zoning dimensional requirements, including height, open space, and setbacks. However, it does need relief for floor area ratio, which is proposed at 0.52, where up to 0.48 is allowed by right. So it needs special permit relief for that. In reviewing this request, the council should consider if the project that requires relief to exceed the allowed floor area ratio is consistent with and not in derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood. Staff have no major concerns with this. We recognize that it does conform to most of the dimensional requirements. However, we encourage the petitioner to use permeable paving where possible and to consider reducing the size to come closer to the by right floor area ratio, since this is new construction. And I'm happy to bring up any plans or materials at the committee's request. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kemet. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on this? I don't see any right now, but if it occurs to you, just raise your virtual hand or wave at the screen. In the meantime, we will see if committee members have anything to say. Councillor Lobovitz.
Yes. I'm curious about the increase in the FAR related to the point about the underground parking. Can you enlighten me or us about the relationship between the increased FAR and the underground parking that was pointed out earlier?
Could I just tack on to that before you, I see you eagerly ready to answer. I was wondering the same thing. You had mentioned that the garage or garages were 500 square feet, which adds to the requirement to exceed FAR, which is only something like, where did I write it down? Not very many, 475 square feet. So are you saying that each unit is about 2,200 square feet, including the garage?
No, what we're saying is that by changing the project, eliminating previously the project with retaining walls covered more of the area below first story. When we eliminated the retaining walls, we are now exposing more of the mass below first story. Most of the mass below first story is taken up by garages. That's the point I wanted to make. So the garages, the FAR 475 is roughly 1/2 of the area that is dedicated to the garages, and those garages are basically installed in a way to achieve a superior site plan without having the parking exposed, but putting it on below grade, as is often favored in developments of this type. Because of the topography, we were able to take advantage of that, but there's a trade-off.
So I understand the advantage you're talking about having out of sight and below grade parking, but the part that I'm not sure I'm understanding properly, and I'm not sure if Councillor Lobovitz, who can speak for himself on this, was getting at it, but you said that each unit was about 2,200 square feet,
Living space,
living space, not,
not counting the mass below first story.
okay, so each one is more like 2,700 square feet, including garage?
If you're gonna count the garages, yes.
Well, for its FAR, right?
That's not, well, yes,
Okay,
yes.
I just wanted to
That's
understand.
why we're here, because the garages are contributing to that.
I wanted to make sure that you answered my question. But I'm not sure. Councillor Lobovitz, are you all set with that
Yeah.
too then?
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Councillor Leary?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you going to take upon the recommendation of the planning department to do permeable paving?
Yes, we can certainly do that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
It looked like in your rendering that I just saw when it showed the top, it looked like were there solar panels there?
Yeah, it is set up for solar panels. Whether or not the owner chooses to exercise that option, I'm not entirely sure, but it is going to be set up to support that.
Okay, it's an all-electric building?
Correct.
And do you have EV charging stations or as well?
We do.
Okay, that's great.
Well, he came.
When you look at the plans, it looked like the garages were very, very big as compared to everything else. They seem bigger than usual. Is there a reason for that?
So they are like standard two-car garages. The reason for this site with the topography going up so steep, it's nearly impossible to get into a garage and at a grade that's acceptable. Also, by combining the driveways to make it one driveway to access both units, there's really nowhere to park on the surface without blocking one of the other garages as well. So that kind of was the path of least resistance. We were able to eliminate the driveway, multiple driveways, and the impervious coverage, I guess, in this case, because it will be pavers. But that kind of kept the parking situation at bay.
So what is the total height of the house now?
I think it's 34.5 feet, so it's below the 36 allowed.
Okay. And I'm glad to hear that you're taking the recommendation of your neighbors and doing all native plantings.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor Leary. Counselor Lucas.
Thank you. Just while we're talking about building heights, you said it's 34 feet and change, but that's with the site is above grade.
Existing average grade.
Above, but so if you're standing on a sidewalk, it would appear taller than 34 feet.
That's correct, obviously, because as we said, the existing condition, there was a starting point of 12-foot change in elevation from back of sidewalk to back of lot.
All right, thank you.
You're up a hill.
Yeah. I just wanted to be, just make sure we're talking the same language. I want to talk about the width of the driveway. I'm looking at the site plan and I can't tell if it's 18.8 feet or 24.3 feet.
From wall to wall.
Can you speak into the mic?
The actual driveway area is the 18 feet and the 24.3 is from side of retaining wall to side of retaining wall.
Okay, all right. And a quick question for planning. I can never remember this, driveway widths. What's the, forgive me, the minimum or maximum for residential districts?
The maximum curb cut is 22 feet.
Okay, all right. I was asking planning, but you know the answer already, so. Thank you, Mr. Morris. And then I think those were my only questions. Other questions were answered. I just find it a little odd that you're only here for FAR relief. I was expecting more relief. And then my question was just why not just build by right and avoid this whole process? But it has to do with the garages and the size of the units, right?
Right. And in order to do it by right, if you did want to put a retaining wall, they would have to be 5 feet instead of 4 feet. So that would put us in front of you guys for exception of 1 foot on the retaining walls.
That's very interesting. Okay, all right, well.
Or you could have reduced the living area by 475 foot per unit and meet the FAR and be here by right.
Right.
Or that.
Right. It just was a little bit challenging with the 2 units there, trying to fit a floor plate that would work and be usable. So we tried to minimize our ask, but we're just asking to get functional.
Yeah, and it's glad that you had your site visit with the neighbors and they seem to like this. So that's all I have. So I think this should be all set.
Thank you.
Thanks, Counselor Lucas. Any other comments from the committee? I see Counselor Wright's hands up. Counselor Wright's hand up. Say that 3 times.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. On the chart that says it's only a 2-story house, it says proposed 2 stories, but it's actually 2.5, I would expect.
Was there a question?
Yeah, it's 2.5 stories. It's not 2 stories, correct? Looks like 2.5 to me.
I think that's an error in the zoning review memo that the planning staff copied
Okay.
the planning report. It is
Okay.
2.5 stories.
Yep. Okay. That's it. I'm looking at the FAR, and so the massing below the first floor that is counted is 793 feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Wright. Are we all done discussing this. This is in Counselor Laredo's ward, who's not here. So would somebody else, Counselor Lucas, thank you.
I make all the motions tonight, it looks like. Yeah, so I move to close the public hearing and move for approval.
Thank you. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous again. And we also now have a motion to approve. So let's look at the conditions.
One moment. Let me make that a little bigger. Okay, this is Kat again. So for findings, we have 1, the site is an appropriate location for the dwelling that will exceed maximum FAR because the project meets other dimensional requirements, including height, lot size, open space, and lot area per unit. 2, the project that will exceed FAR will not adversely affect the neighborhood because the project meets required setbacks and breaks up the bulk of the structure. 3, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians because the project that will exceed FAR because it has adequate parking that will be provided on site. Access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. 5, the project that requires relief to exceed FAR inconsistent with and not in derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood because other buildings nearby are built to a similar size and scale. And for conditions, we have our standard reference condition with the site plan, architectural plans, and the landscaping plan. The site plans don't reflect that it will have permeable paving, but that is something that we can update if we have an updated site plan. And we have standard building permit and occupancy conditions requiring a statement from a professional land surveyor and architect certifying compliance with condition 1, which is the referencing condition, and final as-built plans, and a condition requiring that all landscaping be kept in good condition or replaced if it is damaged.
Thank you, Ms. Kemet. Councilor Lobovitz.
Yes, could you go up to the, show that again and go up, what is it, the conditions, the first section?
Findings?
Number 1,
or
findings,
conditions?
excuse me,
Findings?
findings.
Yes.
The number 1, can you elaborate on that? It sounds like you're saying that because they're only asking for encased FAR, it's more acceptable because they're not asking for other relief? Is that the intent of that first finding? Just asking a question.
Yes, I think the intent is to show that it does meet most of the requirements. So it's appropriate in terms of height, open space, etc.
Yeah,
And
I think in other words, the project has been designed to minimize the amount of zoning relief it is seeking. We look at everything on a case-by-case basis, so it doesn't necessarily mean because there's a lot of relief that it's a bad project. It's so case-by-case that, you know.
I understand that, but it sounds like you're giving more leeway because it doesn't, because it does meet the other criteria. Is that correct?
I'm not sure.
It's the plain meaning of the finding. But I just wanted to confirm that.
So these are suggested draft findings for the council, so I don't think it's planning giving any leeway. It's up to the council to determine whether these findings are adequate. We can always edit them. If you don't think this is fitting, then.
Yeah. It's really not what I'm saying. You're saying that the planning department is saying we should consider that as a factor, which seems reasonable. I'm not arguing it. I'm just want to clarify what this means. And you explain that. Thank you.
Councilor Lobovitz, having been a literature and linguistics major, I sort of see what you're saying. The word because in this makes it seem that because it meets this other criteria, it fits the site despite the FAR.
Yes.
It's just a little thing we could think about. I see it's making it sort of causational with that, and that's
Yes.
not exactly what they mean, but that is a reasonable reading of that.
Okay,
Can I-
thank you. Thank you for
Madam
that
Chair?
clarification, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Morris?
Can I offer a constructive comment?
Absolutely.
Perhaps to help
We
Council
like
Lovett
constructive
about this
comments.
feeling. By FAR has to deal, we can all agree with the volume, the massing of the building. So I think what the planning department was trying to say in this finding was because you meet the setbacks, the height, and all the other measures of mass, then this one measure of mass you can give relief on.
I think that's what they're saying too, but I understand why Councillor Lobovitz is seeing a little bit of cause and effect with the word because, but thank you, that was constructive. And I think that's what is meant here too. Did you have your hand up, Councillor Leary?
I think this is a topic we could talk about at another time as well, but now that it's been brought up, what I would say also is that everything kind of has to work together for us and sort of we consider all the different things that go into a building. And since our zoning isn't always, what we want or it could use improvement, we have to make sometimes accommodations to get a housing that fits the community better or the neighborhood better. Or there's just, in this case, there's that steep hill that makes it difficult. I agree, it could have been smaller. I mean, there were other ways to handle it. And that's our decision. And we also can change the language on the order if we want to. That's our purview.
Councillor Lobovitz.
I just, it's trying to understand the meaning of this, not for this particular project, I understand that, but when we consider other projects and when multiple factors are requested for relief, it raises more questions. I guess that's all I'm saying. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with something that Councillor Leary said, which is this is a topic that we could talk more about another time. And I think we should, but I hope that the note has been taken by planning and law, and maybe just to look at how this kind of a finding is worded. So it doesn't make one thing seem preferential or conditional on the others. But I think we have a motion to approve as is written. And if there's no objections by anyone on the committee, that's the one we'll vote on in a minute. And I'd like to welcome Councillor Mickley, who has joined us virtually. Any other hands up? Yes, Councillor Leary.
For a future discussion, it always bothered me that some of the language includes words like the no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians created by the project. I think that's a very low bar. And I think we should talk about, considering changing that language.
We'll bring law and planning in on that because I think there is some legality behind some of those words, but good point. It sounds actually quite scary. And we should always be thinking that there's no hazard created. I think we're ready to vote on this. Let's go.
Counselor Block,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lobovitz,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck.
Thank you for your
Project-
courtesy once again.
Thank you.
I think you have to come back. We don't want to see a consistency ruling. Our next item, which is the first one of these that I've seen since being on the council, number 75-25, which is a request to allow a marijuana transporter business at 16 McGuire Court. Who is here to speak to this petition? Anyone on Zoom? Is that Isaac Fleischer? Mr. Fleischer, you are now a co-host. You can unmute, and if you have a screen to share, you can do that too.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Isaac Fleischer, and I'm speaking on behalf of the petitioner, which is Blue Sky Organics LLC. This is an application for operation of a marijuana transporter at 16 McGuire Court. The petitioner is Blue Sky Organics LLC, and they are already operating a marijuana delivery operator at that site. Those two uses sound similar because they are. A marijuana delivery operator, for those of you who are not familiar, is authorized to purchase cannabis and cannabis products wholesale from other licensed operators in the state, and then deliver them to the homes, deliver them directly to consumers at their residences. A marijuana transporter, which is what's being applied for today, allows the licensee to, again, purchase wholesale, but in this case, to sell and transport the product to other licensed marijuana businesses. So instead of delivering it directly to the consumer, this would be transporting to other marijuana product manufacturers directly, or to the retailers, that sort of thing. So there are no proposed changes to this site. It already contains a single-story building that is 1,135 square feet, and that's where they're operating the marijuana delivery operator operation. It has an approved security plan and odor mitigation plan, as is required both by local ordinance and by the State Cannabis Control Commission. There's two curb cuts onto the street, one for vehicles entering, and then the other one for the vehicles to exit. The current delivery operation has a single van that is equipped with all of the required security features, and it typically departs in the morning, makes deliveries all day, and then returns in the evening. So it's really just one trip in, one trip out. As a transporter, they would most likely be adding one additional van with similar security features and a similar schedule. They'd be leaving in the morning, delivering to other marijuana businesses throughout the day, and then returning at the end of the day. So one trip in, one trip out. The site has 5 parking spaces. The current operation has 2 employees, and with the addition of the transportation license, they would expect to add 2 more employees. So they are subject to the parking requirement in the zoning ordinance, which requires 1 space for every 1,000 square feet of the building, plus 1 more space for every 4 employees. So with the additional 2 employees, they would have 4. The building's about 1,100 square feet, so the requirement is a minimum of 2 parking spaces. They have 5, so they easily satisfy that requirement. I am going to share my screen now just to go through. Let me lower my hand first. Okay, I'm going to share my screen to go through the existing plans.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Great. Are you seeing a zoning review memorandum on the screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Okay. I'm going to scroll down to the site plan here. So this is the site plan that was already reviewed and approved as part of their the marijuana delivery operation, which if I didn't say it already, the marijuana delivery operator is allowed by right in Newton. So they went through site plan review, but the transporter license requires a special permit. So you can see the entrance and exit here. The vehicles travel around to the back of the building where they can be loaded up and exit out here. The entire site is equipped with pretty extensive security features as is required by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. There's fencing around the front and there are cameras throughout the interior and exterior of the building. All of the exterior doors have the required locks and security features, and the interior doors do as well. I'm going to scroll down to the interior layout. Just going to scroll or zoom in a little bit to this floor plan. This is the existing floor plan, but again, it will continue to be the same floor plan. You can see the product storage area, which is considered a secured area or a vault where all of the where they store all the cannabis products. They can package it here in this room, and the drivers enter the delivery drivers enter here, pick up the product, and then load it out into the vehicle. They also have offices for the employees here. I'm going to scroll down to some pictures of the exterior as well. Okay, this is what it looks like from the street. You can see that there's the fencing up front and the rolling gate that opens to allow vehicles in and out, and is closed the rest of the time. Here's the secured vault on the interior. This is their exterior from another side. There's no signage on the building. Again, this is not a business that's open to the public. Actually by, I believe, both local ordinance and then by the state Cannabis Control Commission regulations, they can't have signage that's visible to the street. And the interior of the building is also not visible to the public. Other angles of the exterior. All right, and so they already, for the MDO, I'm just going to refer to marijuana delivery operator as an MDO to save breath. The MDO already went through a similar approval process, not a special permit approval process, but a similar approval process. And the only thing changing at this point is the use, and it satisfies the criteria in the zoning ordinance. It does not create a nuisance. There's pretty substantial odor mitigation equipment using carbon filters to make sure that there's no detectable odor that escapes from the building, and certainly not that would escape from the parcel as a whole. The owner has been in pretty consistent communication with the other abutters and sent the required notices about this proposed new use to the abutters, but also met with them personally, spoke to them about the change of use or the expansion of the use, and they had no objections to what he was proposing. Instead of going through the planning department's memorandum, we can go through it, but I think it might save time to just open it up. for
Yeah, Mr.
questions.
Fleischer, that's not necessary because we have all seen it and read it, but thanks for considering it. You don't need to go into that. We'll also be hearing from them next if they want to highlight anything from their perspective that you didn't cover.
All right, fantastic.
But if you're going to stay on, there may be some questions that would come up for you, and that would be great.
I would be happy to.
Are you all set then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Kemet,
Hello. This is petition 75-25, a special permit request to allow a marijuana transporter use. The property is located on McGuire Court off of Craft Street in the manufacturing zone. There are manufacturing uses nearby and also some residences and commercial uses in the area. The building on the site is approximately 1,135 square feet and functions as a small warehouse and office, and it was constructed in 2022. The petitioners have been operating as a marijuana establishment with a cannabis delivery operator license since 2024 and have a host community agreement with the city that supports that use. The petitioners are requesting to introduce a marijuana transporter use additionally on the site, and that is the only element of relief is to allow that use. For criteria, the council should consider if the site is an appropriate location for a marijuana transporter, if the marijuana transporter use will adversely affect the neighborhood, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians created by this use, access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. The lot is designed such that it provides convenient, safe, and secure access and egress for clients and employees arriving to and leaving from the site. Loading, refuse, and service areas are designed to be secure and shielded from abutting uses. The marijuana establishment is designed to minimize adverse impacts on abutters, and the marijuana establishment has satisfied all the conditions and requirements in the section. By way of just a little refresher for folks not familiar with these uses, the marijuana delivery operator use is allowed by right in manufacturing and limited manufacturing zones in Newton. They may store and purchase marijuana and marijuana products from other licensed marijuana establishments and sell and deliver directly to consumers. No storefront is allowed associated with the use. And the transporter, which is the new use being requested here, this is allowed by special permit in manufacturing and limited manufacturing zones. They may transport cannabis or cannabis products to other marijuana establishments, and no storefront is allowed with the transporter use. So we have no major concerns to note here. There is adequate parking provided on site, and based on the narrative provided by the petitioner, there will not be a significant impact on traffic. The site is well screened and secure, so the impact on the neighborhood should not be too significant. And I'm happy to bring up any plans for materials at the request of the committee. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Kemet. Before we start to talk about it, I just want you to clarify that, for us that there's no different or additional criteria for the land use committee or the city council to consider for the special permit for the transporter permit than the site plan review for the marijuana delivery. There's nothing additional besides what you showed us at the very beginning that we should consider.
There are specific criteria for marijuana establishment, which I can bring up again that were listed in the criteria, but there are no additional specific requirements for the transporter.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. I will ask now if there are any members of the public or neighbors or abutters who have any comments to make. I don't see any hands. So let's hear from the committee. Councillor Leary.
I just wanted to ask planning about the context of this building being surrounded by large residential 40Bs that are, it looks like it's right in the middle of it, or is it still going to exist when these 40Bs come online?
Yes, the site is independent of the 40Bs, so should the 40Bs come through and exercise the comprehensive permit and start construction, the site will remain as is.
Okay, so there'll be, it looks like it's just a little strip of street in between those two projects, is that right? Is Roach Collision going to be, is that going to be existing too?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure about that particular site, or if I don't think that was included in the 40B. Is that on McGuire Court, or is that further down on Crafts?
It's a little further down. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess
think
need to
they're
look at the map.
staying. I don't think they've had any turnover or development projects.
Okay, I just wanted to put it in context because as I'm looking at my Google Maps, I'm like, it looks like it's squished right in between these very large projects that will likely be coming online. So that was just it. It was more of a comment and just making clear that I understood the locale and what's going on around it. That's all. And I'm sure the applicant is aware of that as well. There'll be a lot of construction. I wanted to ask if, so how many trips a day would be increased in this, if any?
Mr. Fleischer?
Yeah, Mr. Fleischer,
Yeah.
that is for you.
I wasn't sure if that was directed to me. Yeah, it would be, the expectation is that it would be 2 additional trips a day. So one leaving and one returning. The vehicle spends the day
Okay.
making deliveries. It doesn't go back and forth.
When I look at the photo of your building, are those electric charging stations on the side? What are those?
I'm actually not sure, but the owner, John Caruso, is in attendance on Zoom. They
are
look
your
like
vans
charging
electric?
stations.
Are you using electric vans? Are they charging stations for your equipment? I'm just curious.
I don't want to answer without knowing for sure, but if John Caruso is available and can be unmuted, he might be able to answer that.
Yep, I'm here.
Yes, you're a co-host, Mr. Caruso. Go ahead.
So we are running an electric vehicle right now, and those are in fact 2 charging stations on the side of the building.
Okay, and you're going to be using another electric vehicle as well?
Potentially, if we, not a Tesla, but we will get something. Well, more than likely a small van, potentially a hybrid, but we will be purchasing a van to do these transporter deliveries. Yes.
Okay. I have to say that this really is a very benign use in terms of impact. You wouldn't even know it was there. So I don't really have any concern about the increasing the use to the transporter. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leary. Mr. Caruso, while you're on and talking about vehicles and deliveries and all, Mr. Fleischer mentioned that you also received cannabis products to bring into your facility to package and store. And when does that occur? You have 1 vehicle leaving in the morning. Now maybe you'll have 2, basically doing an all-day round trip dropping off. When do you receive product?
So for the current delivery operator business, we are currently getting our shipments directly from our vendors. So with purchasing the new vehicle and being able to pick up product from other manufacturers and delivering them throughout the state, we're going to be picking up our own products to save some money, because every time we do purchase an order and it comes on site, it does incur fees. So we're looking for this transporter as a way to save some money and also pick up orders and deliver them to other dispensaries and pick them up. We're basically picking up orders from cultivators and manufacturers and delivering them to dispensaries. That's essentially what we're doing.
All in that same sort of round trip van. So in fact, this will be reducing the amount of trips coming in and out because you're not going to be getting outside delivery of product?
That's correct. We're going to actually be, picking up all of our orders. So we'll have less vans coming and delivering our current product that we're selling through the delivery operator license, because we're going to fit those pickups and deliveries on whatever route we have where we're picking up and delivering. So when the van comes back at 6, we'll be coming back with some of our product and bringing that into the building. So it actually would be reducing some, yes.
Thanks. That's very helpful to know. Other counselor comments or questions? Counselor Lucas.
Thank you. Also around the corner from my home. So thank you, Mr. Caruso and Mr. Fleischer, for the presentation. I agree with Councilors Kelly and Leary that this is, I think you said, a pretty benign use. This has been here a couple years and I never hear anything about you, so I guess that's a good thing. Just a few questions, and I think some of them have already been asked and you've already answered them. But is this going to, the transporter, is this only going to deliver to businesses in Newton, or are you delivering to dispensaries outside of Newton?
The transporter license would allow them to deliver throughout the state, their delivery schedule will obviously benefit from being more local. But there's no limitation on the geographic range.
Yeah, I was breaking up when he asked that. Could you mind repeating the question? My apologies.
Are you going to deliver to dispensaries only in Newton or elsewhere in the state?
Elsewhere. So we'll be picking up products throughout the state from different cultivators and manufacturers, and we'll be delivering that to dispensaries throughout the state. It won't just be Newton.
Okay, thank you. See, Councilor Kelly, you stole one of my questions, so I won't ask that. The vans that you have and the van that you may purchase, is there any signage for Blue Sky on it?
No, per the CCC, Cannabis Control Commission guidelines, we're not allowed to put any lettering or signage on any of the vehicles.
Okay, so it's just a plain, whatever color it is, van, right?
That's correct. Yep, it'll be a plain white van.
Okay, good. No, that was it. All my questions have been asked. So yeah, this is a pretty benign use, and when ready, I'll make the motion to close the public hearing and move for approval.
Thank you, Councilor Lucas. Any other comments from the committee or any other counselors? If not, let's take a look at the conditions.
Okay, for findings, we have 1, the site is an appropriate location for a marijuana transporter use because it is in a manufacturing district and the site is already operating with a similar use. The transporter use will not adversely affect the neighborhood because it is operationally similar to the existing use on the site, and it's unlikely to have a significant impact on abutters or the surrounding area. There will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, because there is sufficient parking on site to meet what is required by zoning and the anticipated parking needs of 2 uses on the site. Access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. The lot is designed such that it provides convenient, safe, and secure access and egress for our clients and employees arriving to and leaving from the lot, whether driving, bicycling, walking, or using public transportation, because there is adequate parking on site for vehicles and bikes. Loading, refuse, and service areas are designed to be secure and shielded from abutting uses because screening in the form of fencing and plantings minimize the visual impact of activity on the site from abutters. The marijuana establishment is designed to minimize adverse impacts on abutters because it is screened from nearby commercial, manufacturing, and residential uses. No graphic symbols or images of marijuana or related paraphernalia are located on site. And 8, the establishment has satisfied all the conditions and requirements in this section. And for conditions, we just have the one, no building permit or certificate of occupancy will be allowed without a certified copy of the special permit recorded at the Registry of Deeds, because this is just a change in the use and there is no site work involved. And that is it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kemet. Without any further comments, we will vote on it.
Counselor Block?
Have we closed the public hearing yet? Do we need to do that? Yes?
No, we didn't.
No.
I guess I thought we did, but let's.
I'll move
I
to
thought
close the
before we
public
did that,
hearing.
I thought Counselor Lucas already made a motion, and I thought before we heard the findings that we all said aye, but we didn't. Let's vote on closing the public hearing. The motion has already been made by Counselor Lucas, and he's already made a motion to approve, and we've already heard the findings. So first we'll vote on closing the public hearing. All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Now we will take a roll call vote on the actual petition.
Counselor Block?
Thank you.
Aye.
Counselor Downs?
Aye.
Counselor Farrell?
Aye.
Counselor Kelly?
Aye.
Counselor Leary?
Aye.
Counselor Lobovitz?
Aye.
Counselor Lucas?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Good luck. Thank you, Mr. Fleischer and Mr. Caruso.
Thank you, Council.
Our final petition for the night is number 422-24, a request to allow 4 attached single-family dwellings with dimensional and parking waivers at 640 Watertown Street. Mr. Lee, is that going to be you?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So for the record again, Lawrence Lee, Rosenberg, Freeman, and Lee, on behalf of the petitioner. This is actually our second time before the Land Use Committee. We were before you in November, and there's been some substantial changes that we've made since that meeting, and I'd like to share them with you. And with your permission, Chair, I'd like to share my screen, please.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Wonderful. So here we are. I'm just going to do a quick refresher of where we are and what we did. And so we're at 640 Watertown Street. We're right in Ward 2, near the Horseman School. And that was just an aerial photo. We're in an MR1 zoning district. What we're proposing is this particular property of actually 3 dwelling units now instead of 4. That's one of the changes that we've made. The neighborhood immediately, there's a lot of multifamilies, single families. There's a new housing authority development or property that's around the corner from us. So it's a very eclectic group of dwellings in this particular area. Here's an aerial photograph. As you can see, there's a lot of undersized lots. This is a 2-family house that's directly next to us. That was a by right project. So here's the quick timeline of where we were. So about a year ago, we started this. And so we had our first land use meeting in November. We had a follow-up neighborhood meeting in December based on the changes that we were going to show you. And we are with our currently with this committee's hearing. So the original project, this is a quick summary of that, revisiting some of the things that I've already covered. We did go through a historic. They did not find the house to be historically significant. Originally, we had 4 units. Originally, we had a 3-story building. Previously, we had a lot coverage that exceeded 25%, which required a waiver. And we did have a side setback waiver. So here are the changes that we've made since we last saw you. we're going down to 3 units. We're actually going down to 2.5 stories. So it's one of the clarifications that I will make in terms of the attic floor. I think there was I guess the plans were not as clear as it could have been. So I had the architect update the plans as recently as this afternoon to clarify the spaces that's within the attic space. So based on the definition in the ordinance, we do meet the half-story definition. So we are at a 2.5-story building here. We are reducing our lot coverage so that we're below 25%, which is the requirement of a single-family attached dwellings. We have increased our open space. We have pushed or pulled a building away from our rear lot line. So I'll show you some visuals with this. We've reduced some of the grade changes that we've proposed previously. There is a side retaining wall on the easterly side of our property that's 2 feet tall. We no longer need a parking waiver, and we're pulling it away from the trees that our neighbors had concerns about, and we've also relocated the drainage that was previously in the backyard onto the driveway, which was, I think it was Councilor Malachi's suggestion. So previously, this was the zoning charge that we needed waivers. I crossed out the 3 that we no longer need and no longer apply. Here is a side-by-side comparison of what was previous and what's now. So here, this is the prior iteration. This is the front view standing on Watertown Street. This is the Watertown Street view now as revised, which looks much shorter and more like a 2-story building from this angle. This is the left side of the building. So Watertown Street will be on this right side here. The top image is the prior version. As you can tell, the top floor really is a full story. And then you can see down below here, it's really cut down and we've used dormers, and you can see the roof has extended down to the 2nd floor. The building has been pulled back away from our rear property line. So I'll show you that in the site plan as well. This is the right side elevation with garages. Prior iteration up on top, there were 4 units. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. The first unit actually had only 1 garage space, and there was a 1 parking space waiver previously. Now it's no longer the case. It's 3 units, 1, 2, and 3, with 2 garages for each unit. So that we meet all the parking requirements. Rear elevation revised. This is the revised elevation, and that's the prior iteration of from the back view of the building. Here's an updated rendering of our property. So this would be viewed at an angle from Watertown Street side. This is the front door, and this is the side view. So really, we're really looking at a 2.5-story view from even at this angle. The first story being what we're calling the ground floor garage area, 2nd floor, and then the attic space, which is the half-story. This view is from looking at from the easterly side. And again, this is really a 2.5-story or more 2-story building view from this angle. Side-by-side comparison of prior iteration and revised. So the rear setback we met previously, but we've pulled it back away because there were some concerns from our neighbors about trees that were along their rear property line. So we really pushed it away from their properties. We put it towards the front a little bit more. Lot coverage went down. Our height still complies. It actually went down slightly. Open space went up, and the number of stories went down 2.5 stories. Here's just another site plan showing the building location. This is the upper side is the revised. So this block of building has now been removed. So this is the prior iteration of it, where you see the driveways going into the units. This whole section has since been removed. These are the interior floor plans. I can go through these quickly. All of these I've previously mentioned before is we try to incorporate universal designs into the building. as well as giving options for folks to install elevators. So I can zoom in on the floor plan that shows that spaces within each unit where folks have the option to put in a little personal elevator to help with accessibility. I can come back to any of these slides if you like. And these are floor plans that are also in your material, so I'm not going to show you these unless we wish to go back to them. Here is the prior version of the site plan. So this is the existing condition site plan as compared to the previous version of the project. This is now the updated version site plan. This is the existing conditions. We pulled the building away from the our abutters. There's a line of trees here that we did assess, and I'll show you the arborist notations. There is a Norway maple here that we will have to replace, and these are the replacement tree locations. And then this is the comparison of what has been changed to what it was proposed previously. As you can tell, the bulk of the building has now been pushed away from our abutters and pushed forward slightly. We've reduced also the grading, so you can see that there were steeper grading on the back and on the side. Here, we've kind of reduced that with gently, more of a gentle slope than before. So that was one of the concerns that was raised. The one of the drainage basins was previously located in the backyard. And again, we were trying to be very sensitive about reducing the amount of work in the backyard because of the concerns about trees and disturbance with our abutters in the back. And with Councilor Malachi's suggestion, we've taken that and moved it over to the driveway so that it reduces the disturbance in the backyard. Here's the tree protection plan. So this has been uploaded as part of the application. These are trees that are located on our abutters property, and there is one tree right here in the middle that is being removed. So with these, I didn't put in the slides here the narrative that our arborist had submitted, and I have since submitted as well to the city in terms of what we're protecting. This is a tree, this is a fence that helps separate the site and the construction work from our neighbors' trees. Updated landscape plan, that's also in your packet. And this is just another Google view aerial image of our site. As you can see, there's quite a lot of large buildings on smaller land, pieces of land, multifamilies all over the place. This is a 2-family by right that's right next to us, and this is our existing property. And these are just the renderings that I showed previously. And with that, I'd be happy to open up to any questions. Oh, there is one question that one of our neighbors have asked. There is a utility pole that is not on our property, so we've confirmed that. We've also confirmed, I had the title attorney also confirm that there are no easements related to that the utility pole. So I did look at this with on the site, and I want to share my screen very quickly to show the location of the utility pole. So this is just my crude drawing that shows the location. I went through this and I stayed in close contact with Councilor Lucas throughout this whole process. And we've talked about the concerns and the details in this particular question. The pole is actually located, I believe, on number 67, but the utility lines connect to these 3 houses, and then it goes around our property out to Watertown Street. So it does not cross over our property to the extent where the utility company needs access to get to the pole. They will have to go through the properties on Page Road. So that was one of the questions that was raised, and we looked into it. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. We'll probably get back to you with some questions. Before that, let's hear again from Mr. Iadonisi for the Planning Department.
All right, good evening. This is petition 42224 for 640 Watertown Street. As Attorney Lee has covered, this was previously before the committee on November 19th. Having submitted a bunch of changes in February, they're returned here with a request to raise the existing dwelling and construct 4 new single-family attached dwellings with a reduced side setback and driveway within 10 feet of a side lot line. This is a little bit of the neighborhood context. As Attorney Lee had mentioned, there are a variety of uses both in the greater Newtonville Village Center area as well as in the vicinity with the public housing property, as well as some multifamily in the vicinity and a variety of single family in that vicinity. Firstly, with the zoning relief, we had some clarification today from the architectural plans. It had looked like the area above the second story was more than 2/3 of the area of the second story. So we originally had it as a 3-story dwelling. In the zoning review memo and in the planning memo that were a part of the materials for this application. But as Attorney Lee had mentioned, they've provided some clarification and they are not 2/3 at 2/3. So they no longer need relief for a 3rd story. Additionally, as was covered in the memo and in the updated, both the planning memo and the zoning review memo, there is no longer a need for the waiver of a parking stall and lot coverage for this petition. The criteria to consider is whether or not the specific site is an appropriate location for the 3 single-family attached dwellings, whether or not the 3 single-family attached dwellings as designed will adversely affect the neighborhood, whether or not there will be any nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians created by the proposed use, that access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved, and that literal compliance is impracticable due to the nature of the use or location, size, width, depth, grade, or shape of the lot, or that such exceptions would be in the public interest or in the interest of safety or protection of environmental features. The overall analysis is that with that variety of uses in proximity to the Newtonville commuter rail station, as well as all the amenities in that area, it's an appropriate location to have the 3 single-family attached units with those varieties. And then the changes to the landscaping plan include some improved screening, some native species trees, and lastly, the units may appear somewhat large, but this petition has effectively minimized relief. The setbacks are greater than the prior use had, and then with those setbacks and with it being an 80-foot wide lot, having the driveway located elsewhere would be kind of difficult. So the last remaining relief is for the use. And that concludes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iadonisi. Are there any neighbors or residents or members of the public who would like to speak on this? Dasi Khan?
Hi, thank you very much. I'll put I took my video off before, but hello. Thanks so much. I really appreciate the changes in design, and it does look like there's going to be more protection of trees that are along the abutting lines. I'm in number 61 Page Road, and I've been very concerned about the impact on the trees and the first plans, the potential effects on the back part of the lot. So thank you. That's very encouraging. As far as the utility pole goes, the existing utility pole was replaced a couple of years ago, and all access was from Watertown Street through this lot and the other lot that's next to it. The utility workers felt that they could not get a pole, get a truck past the existing garage at number 67 Page. And if you look at Page Road, the houses are built close together on small lots right up to the road. And all of the utility access has been from Watertown Street. So when that pole was falling down a few years ago, it was replaced, and all of the utility trucks came in from Watertown Street across the back part of the yard at 640. So I don't know how that could be accessed without access from Watertown Street. Even if the pole is on the lot of number 67 Page, they felt they couldn't get to it. The utility company couldn't get to it from Page Road. So that's a continuing issue that I don't think is resolved. Unless a truck can get through the lot plan as it's planned right now from Watertown Street.
Thank you for pointing that out. I'm sure it's something that the utility companies will have to work out with the property owners next time they come.
Well, probably it'd be better to figure it out before the next time they come, because if it turns out that there's a pole that can't be repaired or changed without moving a standing garage or interfering with a new retaining wall, that's a big problem. So I think before anything new is built, that has to be figured out, where the truck access really can be, not the next time they need to fix something.
Mr. Lee, do you want to be in touch with the utility companies about this, or what is your thought representing this client and also as an attorney?
Well, they have no rights to come over our property in the sense that the utility pole is not on our land. So we did check on our title whether there are any express easements, and there are none that the title attorney came up with. The pole itself is not on our land, and none of the wires cross over our property. So I don't know how much more I can add to it. I was looking at the aerial map as well too. Right now, the way I see it, I can share my screen and show the aerial. I can only surmise that the trucks may have entered the back of the property through our neighbor, not our property, simply because our driveway is blocked by the garage and the house.
You're
So-
right. The access to the pole began on the other driveway and came through the 640 property to reach the pole. You couldn't reach it from any other place. And so they, the utility truck with the cherry picker and the whole thing that they required to plant a new pole, all that happened right in the backyard of number 640. So I believe you that you have found all the documents that are connected to the easements, but building something that would block access to a utility line that serves several houses without a new plan being created, I think putting a physical obstacle in the way of that seems like a problem.
I think my point is that the utility company may have received permission at some point, but there is no granted right for them to do that. So they have no right to cross over the property unless express permission is granted. The pole does not belong to us. It doesn't serve our property. So they will have to work with you and some of the other neighbors to somehow get access to the pole or relocate the pole entirely, perhaps. I can't speak to it. I can't. I guess the access for that pole by the utility company cannot prohibit the rightful the lawful right for my folks to build on their property.
Well, you can understand my concern as someone who that utility pole serves, but I'm one of 5, I think. So it's an issue.
Understood,
with
but
new
it's not on our
construction.
land.
I'm not.
Okay. I think we definitely hear the issue, and Mr. Lee hears the issue, and we'll also talk with our law department about it. I'm not an attorney, but it's my understanding that access to a utility pole on someone else's property should not impede the right of a property owner to build on their own property. But it's a good point that you raised, and I appreciate it. And we're going to move on to the next person, if that's okay, but thank you for coming and speaking up. Chris Perriello?
Oh, excellent. Most people cannot pronounce it, so thank you.
Did I do that right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Go ahead, Mr. Perry.
I was just wondering if Attorney Lee had any information about an implied easement by virtue of a utility company's prior visits to replace poles or attend to the pole in the past.
Not that I know of. Easements you can't just grant them by verbally. You can have permission temporarily to get access. But in order to grant an easement, you would have to do it in writing, and we search our title and there's no easements on our property.
So there's no explicit written easement. But I mean, if the utility company were to say that they replaced a pole there 20 years ago across the Watertown Street property, wouldn't that be an implied easement?
I do not believe that is the case. No.
Mr. Perriello, now that I know how to pronounce your name, I'm going to say it many times. Could you give us your address, please?
Yes, I'm next door in 648 Watertown Street.
Okay, good to know. Well, I think we are all thinking now about utility access for sure. Is that it for you, Mr. Perriello?
Yes, thank you. I think that the question should be proposed or asked of the utility company, like about prior visits.
Okay, thanks very much. Yield?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Field access, is that field resources?
Yes, I'm Paul Bolia from Field Resources. We're the land surveyor on this. Typically, when a utility company runs into this situation, an electric company, say if this got completely blocked, their only solution would be to install underground. Secondly, the utility company, as they are a public entity, they don't have the ability to adversely possess or to get an easement against somebody's wishes. It's like the government can't do it. They can take it by using the powers of eminent domain, and there can be takings against the property or voluntarily agreement, but they don't have the luxury of inadvertent use and to trespass use, right? So to get to this idea that because maybe one time somebody gave permission to go across the property to replace a pole, that doesn't imply persistence, and at best would be a licensed single-use type of a legal document. Now, just to help people get their heads around this, not to.
Thank you for speaking up. Are there any other members of the public who would like to ask questions or make a comment? We're going to take it into committee. We have Lucas, Block, Farrell, in that order.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Temple, I see you're on this call. Can you just respond briefly to these last comments about access to the utility pole and the comments from Mr. B. Liu? I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. Mr. Temple?
I'm sorry, you're waiting for me?
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to get that last name right. Sorry. So look, this is the first I'm hearing of this issue, but it does not sound like it is a city issue. To be honest, it's about whatever private rights the petitioner has vis-a-vis the utility company. If they're saying they have the right to build this, and it's not going to interfere with the utilities rights in any way, then that's not really something for the city to opine on. If it turns out that the petitioner and their attorney are wrong and what they're proposing can't be built because of some rights of the utility company, then they'll need to come back here and amend their plans. But if they're telling us they have the property rights to do this, we're not going to opine on that.
So Mr. Temple, to the best of your knowledge, there's nothing for the land use committee tonight that would impede us from moving ahead one way or
No,
the
there is not.
Thank you.
I have a point of information on this matter.
Can we just make sure that Mr. Lucas is all done?
Sure.
I am not all done.
And
I
you
just-
are next, Counselor Block.
I realize that it's just particularly germane to this, but if you're gonna.
Go ahead, Councilor Block.
You sure?
And then come back, then I'll.
Absolutely. My question to Mr. Temple, though, is stepping back away from the property owner rights and the utility company rights. Our determination, one of the determinations we must make is that this plan will not have an adverse effect on the community. So from that point of view, is this something that we should be considering?
Mr. Temple, I think that's aimed back at you.
No, I appreciate that, Chair. I'm just thinking it through.
I thought you
I
were
don't
going to
know
pronounce
if I
his
can
name.
answer that question. I don't know what impact there is in terms of access to this pole by the utility companies. I mean, the utility company will access this pole, right? They have to, one way or the other. I don't think by building this project, the utility company will lose access to the pole and 5 properties will lose power forever. There will be a solution here at the end of the day.
Well, you've given us something to think about. Back to you, Councilor Luke.
Back to Counselor Lucas.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lee, I just want to talk about the 3rd floor right now. I want to, could you provide the square footage of the 3rd floor before and what it is now? I'm just curious to see how much the 3rd floor has shrunk in size. The reason why I'm asking this is because in the planning memo, it stated that it would look like a 3rd story when viewing it from the left and the right of the site on the sides. But it apparently is going to be a 2.5-story building. I appreciate the rendering, the 3D rendering that you displayed earlier. But just out of curiosity, the square footage of the 3rd floor prior and now. And you're muted.
Sorry about that. I don't have the square footage comparisons handy by floor. I'll see if I can find that through in any of my plans. But in terms of why it is a half story instead of a full story is that there's square footage that is above the 7-foot height on the top floor is less than 2/3 of the floor, the square foot of the floor below. And so that has changed. And I think visually, one of the things that I can show you is I have the November PowerPoint presentation where I can show you, if you permit me to share my screen, the comparison between that versus what it is, the rendering from that I just showed you now, if you prefer.
Yeah, please. Yeah, that was actually going to be also my next question.
Okay. So here's the rendering from previous iterations. So you can see the 4 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see a really full top story here. All of the images are filled in. They're not dormers. The roof line doesn't come down to the 2nd floor. So this is a very clear image that shows this is a clear 3-story building. This top floor is filled up. And I'm just going to stop share and just change to the other, where the current rendering, share my screen again. And you can see a clear difference between that and now here. You see the roof line comes down, there are a couple of dormers, there's some gables showing the 3 units. So it really has been reduced, that top floor, the massing. And I think that's really the biggest impact from that viewpoint. And this is the driveway view that the planning department pointed out.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, thank you. And on the site plan, you had some, I'm gonna call them red circles near the property line. Can you bring that up again and tell us what those mean, please?
Yes. Share my screen. Okay. So this is these are trees that are going to be planted to replace this tree right here where my cursor is. There's a Norway maple that has to be removed, and to replace the caliper inches, we have to plant these trees on the perimeter.
Okay, and that Norway maple in the middle of the backyard where you have that basketball court, is that the only tree on site that's proposed to be removed?
Correct.
Okay. And I just also want to go back to the utility pole. It's going to be probably a main item of interest tonight. We heard earlier this evening from one of the neighbors on Page Road, Ms. Khan, say that in the past, the utility company accessed the pole from Watertown Street, and they went through the building to the east. They went through that driveway, and then I presume they went onto the backyard of 640 to gain access to it. Can you just bring up that site plan again where we have the utility pole with your drawings on there, or whatever you want to call them? Can we bring that up again? I just want to see.
I have one that can zoom in better.
Oh,
for
you want to do that? Okay.
Well, I can zoom in better for you, and I think.
Thank you. Sure thing.
Let's see. Make sure I'm doing that correct. Are you guys seeing? So I think it's unclear how they must have come across from the driveway here and gone diagonally. But again, there's a lot of trees intervening there. So again, I'm not certain how they did that, because you couldn't come straight across this property as the red building is the existing. And this symbol here is the ANSI universal symbol for utility pole, just so that you can visualize that with the existing abutters trees and the proposed plantings to compensate for the Norway maple that's being taken.
So can they go down the property of 634 since it accesses that particular home? Can they go down 634 all the way and then gain access to the pole through, I guess that's Ms. Khan's property, and then Mr. and Mrs. Gazda property?
There are a variety of fences and other miscellaneous impediments. However, if they came back through here, you know, there's no buildings in the way per se. However, I mean, I think you're going to find that the utility company, in the absence of the ability to put a monstrous truck to do work, will come with a, you know, your normal, the one that's a little bigger than a pickup truck, you know what I'm talking about, with the boom, and come across in a variety of different options that they have between the garages and different things like that. But again, I think if in the impending situation of a utility pole failure, you know, they have a lot of solutions that they have the capability of doing. I see it. We see it all the time.
If I may add, Mr. Vice Chair, that the current proposal ironically actually grants or allows potential better access because of our proposed driveway. I'm not saying that my client would or their subsequent owners of our property, the condominium owners, will allow the access should they be asked, or we're not committing to any permanent easements by any means. But just looking at our site plan and looking at current conditions, what I would assume may happen is if the utility company does need access, they would likely approach our property future owners and ask, may we come over on your land on a day and put in some, get access to that pole. That's probably what will happen on a practical level. And the fact that the project, as you can see on the plan here, provides for this nice driveway will likely be the way they get access. But I can't nor my client be in a position to allow for that permanently, but that would be the way that I would think that would happen. As Attorney Temple mentioned, there will be a solution to this. They figured it out without that access, and they will figure it out again.
Yes, I understand, and I don't. This is all I'm going to say for right now. I do want to hear from other folks. Just a couple of things. That driveway on the right side of your property, it does drop down. I can clearly see it. It does drop down to get to the utility pole. I don't know if the truck will be able to do that. I'll leave it at that for now. I do want to hear what others have to say. And thank you for sharing your screen and answering the questions. Almost set, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Councillor Block, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. This is a very interesting proposal. Mr. Lee, we really appreciated the extensive comparison you made between the previous plan and the current plan and the improvements, and they are substantial. I believe you mentioned that the 2-unit property, I believe to the west of this property, was built by right. And can you confirm that, if you did say that, and tell us a little bit about the difference, if you can, between that structure and this structure, and what makes this require the special permit?
Yes, I can. So that is a by right 2-unit project. It's a 2-family house. I did make some comparisons in the previous presentation back in November. The things that make this different is the fact that we are asking for an additional unit. And that triggers actually the parking or driveway located within the side setback as one of the relief, zoning relief that we're seeking. But otherwise, the structures are very much similar in size. If you want me to share my screen for a visual of the aerial photograph, I can do that, and I can share some of the other plans.
Or if you wouldn't mind, that would be helpful.
Okay, absolutely, I can do that. So here's a Google image of the building right next to us, and this is a 2-family house. And our property is right here with the red arrow.
And of course, your proposal is 3 units and not 2. And how do the dimensions compare, the two structures?
Great question. So this is an MR1 lot. So effectively, the setbacks are actually a lot closer, as you can see just from this image. But the general rule is for MR lots, if it's what they call an old lot, that's a pre-1953 lot, the side setback is 7.5 feet. A new lot is 10 feet. And our proposals, once you change the status from a 2-family to what we're proposing, 3 single-family attached dwellings, 25-foot setbacks automatically apply all around the site. So, for example, this side setback for us right now is actually just slightly over 13 feet. We're actually increasing that to about 15.5 feet, but nevertheless, we're still under 25. So that's one of the waivers that we're requesting. However, if you were to compare, say, for this building, we are still, whether it's 5 feet greater than the by right, 15 versus 10, or double the 7.5 times 2 is the 15 feet. So effectively, we would be well further than a by right project. So side setback is one of the waivers. 3 units is another waiver. And then the third waiver is the fact that the driveway is located within 10 feet of the property line. So if you see my cursor, as you can see, the existing driveway is already within that distance. So from the fact that we just changed the use and keeping the driveway on this one side, that requires a waiver. Whereas as you can see on here, this is a by right location for a 2-family house. So if you were just to walk by this property and you see these 2 structures, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference if you don't know the technical zoning rules. One was actually required a special permit and the other one did not.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. It's still very, your commentary regarding utility companies' rights and property owners' rights is certainly appropriate. What I keep asking myself is, this is not a by right proposal. A by right proposal you wouldn't be presenting to us. This is a special permit proposal. So we have these heightened responsibilities that we must consider. And you're presenting some interesting problems. Okay, that's it for now. I may come back with some other questions later. Thank you.
Or you can think of them right now while you have the floor. Okay, thank you,
Right,
Counselor.
Chair. I will defer to others to.
I prefer to
comment.
hear from people once, if possible. That's my preference for how a meeting gets run. Counselor Farrell, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. If I may speak to Mr. Lee, I think this is an extraordinarily wonderfully improved project. I had one marginal disappointment that you weren't able to maintain at least the external structure of the original building and then build behind it, because I think that's a great building. I have one observation on the left side of the building as you look at it from Watertown Street, that you have the front and then there is a bulge out on the left that is white that I think is very glaring and detracts from the rest of what I think is a wonderfully designed project. I really do have a lot of praise for the way you've scaled it down and taken care with the property, the water problems and so forth, and the trees. And I have one question, which is about, will all this new driveway be permeable? It seems to be a question I'm asking a lot these days. But I too want to comment on, with all due respect, on the response to the neighbors' very politely expressed concerns about the power lines. And I don't know that you do have a legal responsibility, but I, for one, would like to see more developers, yourself included, and again, with all due respect, listen to the concerns of these neighbors, and if at all possible, take the initiative to say that you would try to convene a meeting with the power company and the neighbors to talk about this issue. And even if they can't come up with a definitive resolution, at least help the neighbors to understand that there is some support for their concern. I think that's really important in all of these projects. We are not just allowing for the development of one building. We are trying to help that building and the developer live peaceably with the neighbors And so I would ask you if you would please speak to your development team and ask if they would consider speaking more directly with the neighbors and with the power company about this real concern. There isn't anybody, as far as I can tell, in this room or online who can give an answer. Everybody can say, well, I think they would. They probably might. Boom, boom, boom. But I would like to ask you if you would make that extra effort to listen to the neighbors and try to resolve that problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Mr. Lee, would you like to respond to Councillor Farrell?
Yes, I will certainly ask my development team and my clients to, when they are communicating, they have to communicate with the utility company for their project anyhow. So in the matter of, in course of doing so, I will ask them to talk about that poll and what they would do in that situation.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Much appreciated, particularly by the neighbors and by the Land Use Committee. Is that it for you, Councillor Farrell?
Sure.
Sure. Councillor Leary.
I'm very glad we got that utility pole problem solved. I was just wondering if anyone would just talk to the utility company. So thank you, Mr. Lee, for making that effort. That is appreciated. I see you're really going all in on the universal design, which I'm happy to see. And the elevator option is also, I kind of like that. I don't think I've seen that very often, or if the elevator option for potential to put an elevator in, although that would be, I think, expensive. It sounds like elevators are usually expensive. I wanted to ask about, well, one other point I just want to make. This is a much improved project, and I really appreciate the effort that you and your client has done to make this what I think fits much better into the community, asks for less relief, much improved. You're planting new trees. I understand you're removing one maple tree, which is non-native, and I'm not as concerned about that. And I know you're replacing it. Are there any fences along the property? It looked like there might have been.
Good question. I'm gonna have to scroll through the landscape plan. I think there is actually, there's gonna be a short retaining wall, and there may be a fence on the easterly side and the rear of our property, and partly on the rear of the easterly side.
How high are the fences?
Good question. Paul, do you have that information? I don't know if that detail has been discussed yet.
I believe on Pete's plan, it shows that it's a 6-foot fence on the easterly side. On the westerly side, not on this property, but the abutter has a fence that runs along what would be our proposed drive. So if you look on the existing conditions portion of that plan, there's a fence that runs right down the property line from the back of sidewalk to the back corner of their property. I assume that's going to stay there. I mean, we're not going to.
Yeah. That's probably, is that also a 6-foot high fence? Or is it lower?
I could tell you.
A portion of the fence for our neighbors on the right side, that's at least on the Google Maps, that currently it's a white picket fence style, and it's low, about 4 feet tall in the front. I can't tell in the moment.
It transitions to a stockade partway back, so presumably 5 to 6 feet tall.
And
from
there's no
But
fence on the front of the property at all, right? I didn't look like there were any fences on the front.
No.
I'm not a fan of those big, tall, white plastic fences that turn green and over time. So I think those are really all the points that I want to make. That I didn't love the project when it first came before us. It also looked like it was removing a very nice home that fit well into the community. But I understand people have a right to develop their property. So I appreciate you making this a smaller building. And what is the total height of the building?
Under 35 feet.
The length, is that what do you?
The height,
34,
30, it's under 35 in terms of height of the
under
building.
35 feet?
Under 35 feet, correct.
Okay, I thought you said 135.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I thought that wasn't right. Okay, under 35 feet. Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Thank you, Counselor Leary. I'm going to make some comments at the end, but Counselor Maliki has very patiently been raising her hand and waiting there. And I also see another member of the public who I will come to after Counselor Maliki, and that will be Sari. Radlin Gazda. But let's hear first from Counselor Maliki.
Okay, thank you. Just to comment on that pole issue, I am glad, Mr. Lee, you are going to contact the utility company because they might want to just get rid of that pole before everything gets built up and do whatever undergrounding they might do, just so they'll never have to worry about it again. The thing I really wanted to talk about, though, could you pull back the that aerial shot, the Google Earth shot?
Give me one quick second, please. I just need to
Or
get back to it.
plane, aerial, or however it was made.
Sure thing.
Okay, which is the Nori maple, I guess it is, that you're removing? Is that the tree that looks like a?
I believe it's
Okay, yeah, Crimson King, it looks like, yeah. Okay. I really appreciate your moving that backyard water container system. But the locations where you are mapping the new trees, I guess red maples to be planted, it looks like well, first of all, I don't know how close they are to the, trunks of the neighboring trees, which could be an issue anyway, but it looks like they literally be under the canopy of the existing trees, and I don't think that's going to fly with Mark Welch. So I think you might have to, I assume you'll have an arborist involved in all this, and whatever digging you do for the trees you're planting are not going to.
That's right.
Major roots of the neighbor's trees. But get all that settled before, because you might have to tweak the locations of your new trees.
Understood.
And I see there's not a folder yet on NewGov for the tree permit document, so I can't see your arborist narrative that you referred to, which I'm sure I will be interested in.
Yep, it actually is uploaded in as part of the special permit petition, Councilor.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Maybe I'm.
So
not
you'll
looking
find
at
it in there.
Okay.
Yep.
And I also kind of Councilor Farrell commented on the white walls, and I found that kind of glaring too. It reminded me of the white plastic fences that Councilor Leary referred to, and the rest of the siding, it looked like lovely sort of earth tones, and white with the brown siding just didn't look as attractive as I think it could be if it were something like a, moss green or something sort of more compatible. Just a thought. And also I thought the way you did the prior and the new elevations was really helpful. It would be ideal if there were places where I think the scale was not quite the same, or where you were lining up roof line to roof line, and I think it would be better to line up earth line, whatever, which I assume is not changing, right? You're not changing the elevation.
The grading.
The grade rather.
The grading, there will be some grade changes.
Okay,
but
so
it's-
maybe, or to kind of show what the new grade and the old grade would
Sure
be,
thing.
and the scale thing, but the side by side was very helpful. Thank
Sure
you.
thing.
Thank you, Councilor Maliki. And I know that you and I view the new tree ordinance a little differently here, but I think it's ridiculous to require people to replace the caliper when they remove an invasive species tree like a Norway maple. Though I'm happy to see some new trees being planned for this, but I just want to say quickly before I get to my comments later that I agree with Councillor Maliki that the locations that you put those red tree symbols on don't seem to be taking into consideration the canopy of the neighboring trees. So you can adjust that with reality, with your arborist or with your landscape architect. Next, I'm going to go back to the public, and I see, sorry if I'm going to mispronounce your name, sorry, Radin Gazda. And let me just say, Dossie Khan and Chris Perriello, we appreciate your participation here, but in a public hearing, at least with the Land Use Committee, that we give each speaker one time to speak. So if you have something more to say to us, you can certainly send it to us in an email, but I'm not going to call on you again tonight, just to let you know that. But Ms. Gazda, if you would like to go ahead, please do.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Malachi actually addressed a bunch of the things I was going to ask about, and I really appreciate that. And I do appreciate the changes to that you've made in this updated plan. One thing that I haven't gotten a very good feel for, though, is what the whole landscape plan looks like in this version. And particularly, I'm curious a little bit more about the fences and the grading. I think you sort of flashed past that on the some of what you showed, but I wonder if you could sort of a little more comprehensively talk through that. I think it is, like I said, I think it is very much improved, but I'm not sure they have the full picture. And just as a reminder, part of the reason that we're interested in this is also because it abuts the historic district, where we have very strict requirements for what, for instance, fences could be put in, and having something that that blends with what the requirements are would be very very helpful. So would you be willing to put up some of and talk through the whole landscape plan quickly? Is that possible?
Mr. Lee, do you have that and perhaps an image of the anticipated fencing?
So I have this image of the landscape plan, and the schedule of planting. This is just the pertinent section of the image, but this is part of the plan that was uploaded as part of the petition. Certainly, it's a very common condition in the special permit that we would have to have the planning department approve the final landscape plan. That's one of the standard conditions. So I think Councillor Maliki made a very valid point about, and as well as Chair Kelly, about the locations of the perimeter trees. We would have to look at it in terms of how it relates to the canopy. There's an existing tree right here, and these are some of the existing trees. So we have to plant them in accordance with what's there so that they can all thrive. It doesn't detail in terms of fencing, but we can certainly add that as take care of that as part of the standard condition procedures on having the planning department approve the final landscape plan, which is what we typically do anyway. So, and we can certainly have conversations with our neighbors about the types of fencing. What I typically see in these types of developments, if there is room for a fence, would be as we get towards the back part. So for example, as we get further in, provided that we're not interfering with our neighbors' fences, I think there's actually maybe a split rail back here somewhere. We would like to probably put up a 6-foot tall stockade fence, not the white vinyl fences that folks don't like, but be wood or wood colored fences, and it'll be 6 feet tall, which is typically the highest we can go.
Okay. So you when you've finalized this and put in things like the fences, which aren't here, when I looked at this, I thought, oh, okay, you're just having it be open essentially the way it is now, other than these trees, which which is fine with us, but I was sort of surprised. But knowing what those plans are would be helpful, particularly, I know we're beating a dead horse here, going back to the question of the utility pole.
Sure.
Well,
Understood.
so,
And I
okay,
understand that you're right over here.
yes,
Yep, exactly. So we will definitely have more discussions about that. And we'll
okay,
stay in communication.
okay, great, thank you.
Sure thing.
For raising that, Ms. Costa. Mr. Lee, as I know you've seen often with a planting or landscape plan, petitioners show images of either what the plants look like when they're installed or what the fences look like. And though I think we would like to leave this to the discretion of the planning department, some direction from the land use committee will be helpful, because you have now heard several times from people with a distaste for white vinyl fences. So wording of this will be important later.
Sure thing. Yep.
Let's see, anybody else? If not, I'm going to do a quick wrap up with my thoughts, which is going to be very scattered and non-comprehensive because most people have really done a great job of hitting on almost everything. Overall, I'll say I too very much appreciate the changes that were made, the moving the building back from the setbacks, reducing the number of units. If you plan to finish the outside with wooden shingles, which what it looks like in the renderings, it really looks very lovely. And I know this is a subjective judgment, but we often see a lot of these new houses in like white vertical hardy board with black metal roofs. And it's so pleasant to see a house like this with the lines and the roof lines and the dormers and the wood shingles. It looks like it really fits in, especially as Ms. Gazda just pointed out, you're very close to a historic district here. And I think this is a very nice looking building. I too appreciate the elevator option. I wish that you could put them in because, as Councilor Leary pointed out, it's very expensive for later users to do that. However, it's a cost to your client right now, but otherwise these units are not handicapped accessible. There's no way people are going to be able to get in from the basement or from any of the sets of stairs in the entry. So anyway, I like that you're providing the option at least. I've touched on the removal of that Norway maple, which is no great loss in my opinion, and you will be moving the locations of the new replacement trees to places where, as you said, Mr. Lee, they will thrive. I'm very happy you're going to be in touch with the utility companies to talk about and explore potential for connections if they need to make it. And I think the suggestion was made, maybe they'd like to look at doing that now before you dig up your site. But I'd like to mention and have you talk for a minute about the 4-foot grade change that you're planning to add to the left rear part of the site, because grade changes of that much are something that we like to be aware of and to understand and consider. So could you pull up if you have a grading plan, or at least talk about what that is about and where?
Sure thing. If I may share my screen.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So this is the site plan, and we'll just zoom in a little bit here. This is the prior iteration on the right side, so we're going to ignore that. Here is the grading plan. So it starts at a low at a 53, goes up about 3 feet to just around where the house is located. So it is a slight up gradient from the back towards the house. Likewise, currently the grade does slope upwards from the side. So if you were to look at the driveway on our neighbor's property, it slopes upwards towards the existing house. So we try to keep the existing grades very, very close to what it is. The back does have more of a grade change from where you can see some of the 52s here, this number, and then it grades up to about a 56 level as you get to the house.
So there's a way of handling the increased stormwater runoff by the increased roof surface so that it's not running to those, the two abutters we've heard from tonight. there's a way of handling that drainage system?
Right, we submitted the drainage information to Mr. Daglian, and the planning department made mention of that in their memo, the recent memo, that we've complied with the requirements. Certainly, they will get another second review as we approach the building permit phase. So they will ensure that we comply and not put any water on our neighboring property.
I think we all did note that in the memo, and sometimes I raise issues publicly just so that they go on the record publicly, or people who are listening who maybe didn't have access or know about reading the memo are aware that
Sure thing.
something that's been considered and has been reviewed and so far is deemed an adequate drainage system. So those rear butters should not be worrying that more runoff is going to be hitting their property. And those are my scattered comments. Councillor Lucas.
Chair, thank you. There have been, I want to thank Mr. Lee and the people who have been working on this project. The project is much better today than it was before, back in November. There is still the outstanding issue of the utility pole and how they are going to access it. So based upon what we heard from other counselors, and particularly Ms. Khan, who spoke earlier this evening, I'm going to move hold just so that Mr. Lee has time to talk to the utility company and he can come back and give an update. And I think that would be the last thing that at least I would like to see from this particular petitioner on this project.
So you are moving to hold, which would mean we'll keep the public hearing open.
Correct.
And before we vote on that, Councillor Downs has her hand up, and Mr. Lee also again. First, we'll go to Councillor Downs.
Thank you. I think, and I will ask if Mr. Temple is still here for him to weigh in again, that this utility pole issue has been addressed, and as far as they can do so, it is not on their property, nor is it their responsibility. And I would not vote hold. I would vote this one through tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Downs. Mr. Lee?
Yes, exactly. That's that it would be a huge issue for my client, and on if it's were to be held on an issue that is really not related to our property. As I stated, there is no easement for the utility company. We are the pole is not on our land, and so this would be a huge detriment to my folks if this were to be held. It's been 3-4 months since the last time we were here to delay it further. And I know that contacting utility companies is one of the hardest things to do. So that oftentimes you have to wait in a long queue. So we have to do it as part of our building permit process and building construction process. So when that happens, that's where I intend to have my clients speak with them at that time about the pole and what they want to do or plan to do, what have options to do. But I would ask that we do not hold this item on something that is not on our property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Councillor Block.
Thank you, Chair. I hear you, Mr. Lee. Our charge, one of our charges is to determine whether your plan would have an adverse effect on the community. And I have to say, I can't answer that. And because I can't answer that, I have to lean in that direction. So if this isn't held, I will vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Block. Councillor Leary.
Mr. Lee, do you think that you could get some kind of, I don't know, maybe if we get something in writing? I know that you may not be able to get through to the utility I'm thinking, you know, subject to second call. Because what I'm hearing from my colleagues is that they want more of a commitment about the issue with the utility pole. And what you've described, I agree with. I don't believe it is totally your responsibility. And I thought it was a wonderful gesture for you to go ahead and say that you will work to get some resolution on it. And what you have said about doing that during the building permit after it is approved, I believe you will do that. I don't want to hold it any further either. But I'm wondering if we can get a compromise here with the subject to second call, if there's something that we could maybe get in writing, or if there's any other suggestions that other of my colleagues have.
I'm not sure what he could get in writing, honestly, because it is very difficult, as we know, because we're in public facilities, to reach people at the
Right.
utility companies to have a dialogue and especially to put something in writing. I do think that we are concerned about the public welfare of particularly the Page Road neighbors, and that's what's become apparent through this. Mr. Temple, correct me if I misunderstood what you said, but what I heard our law department saying is that this is not an issue that we should be holding up or putting too much into because of the points that Lawrence Lee has made. This is not on our property. The utility company will access their utilities in one way or another, which leads me to think that I would trust in the good faith of this developer and owner to have the conversation when it can happen with the utility companies and that things will work out. I would rather not hold also. But if I misheard you, Mr. Temple, please speak up now, because I do look to the law department to give us guidance on land use legal matters.
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with what you said. I don't view this as a zoning issue that the committee needs to dwell on.
Okay, Councillor Downs, your hand up again.
Yeah, it just seems unfair to me to hold a property owner responsible for something that isn't on his property and that he doesn't have any control over. I just don't think that's fair.
Got it. We have a motion on the floor. Oh, Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. I fully understand legal counsel's comment that this is not the responsibility, but I would like to hear a definition of what adverse impact means on the neighborhood. That's pretty clear in everything I have read about the charge of the Land Use Committee. And every time planning starts off with number one, they say that this project will not have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. I'm not asking Mr. Lee to solve this problem. I'm asking Mr. Lee if he would call together the neighbors and the power company to try to come to some resolution that would make the neighbors feel that there is a resolution if this should come to pass, that everybody will be playing by the same rules. You know, I would like to even see Mr. Lee say, we will put in the sale documents for these condominiums that if it's necessary, the condominium owners will in fact give permission for the power company to go down the driveway to fix this, if it becomes a problem. I'm sorry. Adverse impact on the neighborhood, this is it. I see it. And I don't want to hold it. I don't want to stop people from development. Let's move ahead. I think the ball is in the developer's court. Thank
Are
you.
you asking, though, right now, tonight, for a definition or an explanation from planning and or law, which may have it easily available on the definition of adverse impact?
If that's easily available and open for discussion when I hear it, sure. Glad to hear it. Thank you.
Let's see. That was your question. Let's see if it can be answered. Planning, do you have, because it is in your standard conditions or findings, do you have a way of explaining what that means to people in lay terms? Maybe Ms. Wewell?
I mean, I think it's so site and project specific. You know, it could be you know, traffic patterns of a proposed use, if that is not, you know, mitigated correctly by a project. It could be visual adverse impacts from a project, you know, should a project cast shadows that aren't mitigated, you know, appropriately. Those are kind of two examples I can think of. I'm not sure if there's any case law Mr. Temple is aware of. That sounds more of a research project for us, but I would be interested in that from case law. But
Yeah, I can jump in. I think this is a larger conversation for another day. There really is no clear definition of an adverse impact. That's for this committee to determine. But it does need to be related to interests protected by zoning. You know, having utility connections is not a zoning interest that the city protects, or it's the city's responsibility to provide utility connections to properties. That's not within the purview of zoning. That's not within the purview of the city or the municipality, period. So I would really caution against focusing on this as an adverse impact.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Temple. Paul of Field Resources, do you want to speak again? Because I would like to get us to a vote. So if you have something to add to this part of the conversation, please go ahead.
Well, the one thing I thought that might help the counselor feel better about what would be an adverse condition, the thing that puts an undue adverse condition, is a two-family constructed by right on this property would block the back access to that pole more than the development that you see before you. So and the reason I bring that up, not to say that that's what anybody wants. What I'm suggesting is this project is not more detrimental than what you could do without permission. So therefore, when I sit in the same seats that you guys are sitting in tonight in my local community, that's what I use to review whether or not something is more detrimental. If they could do or create this, I'm going to call it impediment, by right, then by definition, the thing they're asking permission to do isn't more detrimental, right? So that's the only thing I was trying to bring up to help the counselor who was rightfully concerned that he doesn't want to approve something that's not the best, but.
Thank you. Councillor Farrell, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Being confronted with something that could be worse is not a solution to me. If prior access to this property has been to the poles, has been down a driveway, I guess I'd like to hear from Mr. Lee whether or not they could put a covenant or something into the deed saying, should it ever be necessary for the power company to get back to this pole, we'll allow them access. If they damage the road, they have to fix it. I don't know, but it seems to me there is a reasonable solution to this. And I guess I'd just like to hear Mr. Lee and his client speak to it. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Lee does have his hand up one more time, and I hope it's something very brief because I'd like us to get to vote on the motion that Councillor Lucas made. I do believe, Councillor Farrell, that Mr. Lee has already addressed this and said he's not willing to put similar conditions to this on future owners, but let's hear it directly from Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I think, everything that I've heard today is well intended. I can see where Councillor Farrell, Councillor Block, where you're coming from. What you're asking us to do is something that we may not even be able to deliver. As an example, I or my clients may not even be able to speak with the utility company about that pole because we don't own it. It's not on our property. None of the lines are connected to our property. What we can offer is a good faith gesture. I think this development team has shown that we've listened to our neighbors' concerns by the changes that have been made. And so, and I've also pointed out that just physically, the project actually provides, even though we cannot burden our property legally on something that doesn't exist today. So I think it's well intended, but we're really going off on a tangent. And I think Attorney Temple has already indicated that this issue that's been brought up, first of all, it has not been substantiated. It's been brought up. It's brought up as a question, and so when it happened last time, the utility company went around a neighborhood and asked for permission to get access. That's what I anticipate happening again. And so I think it will be really unfair and detrimental for my client to be asked to put a restriction on the property for access to another property on something that we don't own. So I think, again, respectfully, none of this is a zoning issue. I think we've demonstrated in very good faith, all of the things that we've done so far have been a reaction to the neighbors' concerns. So I can offer our continued good faith to talk with the utility company when we are required to, because we have to develop our property. When the time comes for us to tie into utilities, we have to communicate with them. At that time, I can offer for my clients to speak with the utility company at that time about the pole, what they would do, et cetera, et cetera. But beyond that, I don't think it would be fair to impose a legal right and restriction on my client's land that doesn't exist today, based on perhaps a speculation or perceived problem or perceived adverse condition.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. I think your
Thank you.
point is very clear. And I think we owe it to ourselves and to Councillor Lucas to vote on his motion to hold. Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. The last option that I suggested was really just a suggestion out of blue sky. Originally, the question was, would you please talk with the neighbors and with the power company and try to assure them that should anything happen, you will be on their side and willing to help. That's what I asked for originally. And a good faith effort on the part of the developers to assure the neighbors that you're going to try to help should that come. That's what I asked for. Thank you.
I think that's what Mr. Lee was just offering. Mr. Lee, am I incorrect?
Absolutely,
Isn't that exactly
100%.
what you just said? Okay.
100%, Councillor Farrell. We would certainly work together as we have already with our neighbors. And when the time comes, we would love to get everybody together and talk it through. But that's all we can do, really. So that's beyond that. I can't promise you beyond that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Councillor Lucas.
Based upon the conversation tonight from Mr. Lee, Temple, and others, I withdraw the motion to hold, move for approval.
Thank you.
And close,
Yeah.
close the public hearing.
Yeah, okay, that involves that. We do have a motion on the floor. Let's close the public hearing first. Yes, Councillor Block.
Call on the public hearing vote, please. Thank you.
Sure.
Counselor Block,
No.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lobovitz,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, The public hearing is closed. The motion we have before us now is to approve this project, and we will definitely do a roll call vote on that. Oh, yes, the conditions. You got caught up in forward movement. So sorry. Let's go back to the conditions. Joe?
Okay, I'll skip over the findings and go right to conditions if that's what the chair requests.
Yes, sure.
Okay. The conditions are plan referencing, our standard condition number 1. I had in the draft a landscaping
Excuse me,
condition.
Joe, can you zoom in and make that bigger, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. Happy to. So I had in the previous edition, I had the most recently submitted landscaping plan. In the draft, in the version that was attached to the memo that went out in the Friday packet, I've removed that as a part of the discussion tonight regarding some of the potential tree locations being close to the canopies of other ones, and that seeming to be the will of the council. But certainly we can reinstate that if need be. Next is the pest and rodent remediation activity condition. After that is the construction management plan condition, including contact information, phasing of construction activities, site plan, including proposed location of contractor, subcontractor parking, storage, staging, delivery, vehicles and equipment as well, temporary pedestrian access, dust control, noise control, tree preservation, as well as safety precautions, dewatering. We do have the all electric, including heating and cooling condition as well in here. Additionally, no building permit being issued until we have plans that match what's been approved by the council order for the special permit, and the order being recorded with the Registry of Deeds, and then certificate of occupancy, the last stage, making sure that we have those same plans that match, including the as-built, statement of compliance with condition number 1, and also another condition I didn't catch that to delete was compliance with the original landscaping condition, which I can certainly reinstate if that's the will of the council. And then planning approval of the final location, number, and type of plant materials, landscape features, fencing, and parking areas related to or for the portion of the project for which a certificate of occupancy is required. Maintenance of the landscaping in good condition, and replacement if not, and then temporary CO prior to the installment of landscaping. And I see Katie's hand is up as well, so there may be a correction here.
Yeah, just on the building permit condition, we'll make sure to add the requirement that they submit a landscaping plan, and then we'll use that to cross-reference at the later phases. So just wanted to point that out and make it clear to the committee we'll add that so it's not snuck in there later.
And be sure with that fencing location, type, height, and material is noted on the landscape plan. And I think you heard clearly tonight that many people would prefer not a white vinyl fence. We're going to have to trust you with that.
We can craft something that
Not true everywhere, but maybe in this neighborhood, not appropriate. Thank you. Thank you for those. Okay, let's take a roll call vote.
Counselor Block,
No.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lobovitz,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
motion passes.
We are adjourned at 3 minutes of 10. Thank you, everyone.